In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Veritas jointer plane. I've had this for a few years now, and I thought it would be a good time to go over how I like it, what I like about it, and what I maybe don't like about it. So let's begin. And while we're at it, if you could hit that like button and leave a comment below about what you'd like to see next, or what you'd like me to change, or anything at all, I would be greatly appreciated, and it really helps the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so first thing is, let's talk about the plane itself. The forward tote and the rear tote. It also has this brass knurl knob here to adjust the mouth opening. So you loosen that off, and then you can adjust how open or closed the mouth is. And there's the knurl knob. There's a little brass screw here that allows you to limit how far that mouth can go in any direction. So we'll just leave it at that kind of quarter inch, 3/8, something like opening for now. And the blade is a single bevel up blade, and we have a screw type lever cap. We have a very thick blade, very heavy, very thick, and a Norris type adjuster mechanism. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a really quick sharpen. Okay, my sharpening setup is super simple. I've got a coarse diamond stone and a fine diamond stone and a spray bottle with water and a couple of rags just for keeping the water under control. This blade does not need to be retouched. The edge has no chips on it or anything, so I'm just going to go for a quick resharpen. To do that, I get lots of water on my diamond stone. This is glasses cleaning fluid, because I got a bunch of it for free when I bought some glasses. Often I'll use Windex or automotive windscreen wiper fluid. The reason I use those is because they have things in them that help prevent rust if you don't clean up your stones or your blade completely. So get some water on there, then I just spread the water out. I'm not really working on the blade yet. So then I'll place the blade bevel down. Since it only needs a touch-up, we're just going to touch the bevel. I will rock the blade forward until I feel it hit the flat and until I see water squeeze out the front. Then I know that the blade is solidly flat and square on the bed. I place these 3 fingers down, the thumb underneath, the pinky down the side. Depending on the width of the blade, that number of fingers changes, but it's the same idea. Then I place these fingers across it, kind of like at 90 degrees, but that's not critical. The only weight I'm putting on here is the weight of my hands. And as I move, I will check the registration of my blade. When you go back, you can feel the back side of the blade clonk against the plate. And when you come forward, you can feel the front side. So what you want to do is get a relatively even, flat weight on there so that you're neither clunking back nor forwards. And you can definitely feel that, especially on a blade this thick. It gives a really solid registration. Then I move the blade forward and backward. I am moving my entire body forward. I'm rocking forward on my left foot, rocking back on my right. I'm keeping my back, arms, shoulders, all locked in. My elbows are tight against my side. Forward, backward. You can see at the front here that we're getting a even gray coloration in the water. That is the material coming off the bevel. We want to do about 10 strokes. I didn't count, so I'm just going to go until I see a pile. But you can see the water is pushing evenly my registration is probably pretty good. I can flip it over, wipe off the moisture, and I can see that that blade is evenly sharpened all along. There's no unevenness, there's no sharpening more here or there. It's evenly sharpened and evenly polished all the way along. I'm going to go over to my leather. I've got a piece of leather glued to a board here and saturated with green compound. There is, even with Veritas's PMV11 blade, there is a, can you see that? Yeah, PMV11 blade. There is some slight wire along the edge. Very, very slight. I'll put the back on and I will pull away one time. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that bevel, or sorry, that wire, I can feel it, is gone from the back and it now sits on the front. So now I put the blade bevel side down, flatten it, I put my fingers along the edge and pull away. That wire, you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, is gone completely. You can't feel it. There's no wire there. That blade is completely sharpened. Now I'll wipe off my stone. And we are good to go back and put it in the plane. Okay, putting it in the plane is as simple as taking it out. Bevel up, drop it in there, point first, over the screw, between the little set screws on the side, drop it onto the Norris adjuster, drop the cap back on, and then screw it down. Now, we don't want this cap super tight because we want to be able to adjust the plane. We just want it snug, just snug. Okay, the plane is ready for work. It is not, the blade is not extended yet, but we'll get to that in a minute. So what we have here is a board fresh off the mill. It's rough all over. I'm going to plane this long top edge. Normally what I would do if I was making something out of this whole board is I would joint the two edges. That way when I do all my measurements and everything, they're taken off of a known square. So every time I go to make a project, I use this jointer on the long boards in order to get my measurements square across the board and these sides square to the faces, even if I haven't planed the faces yet. I always start with the edges. And I don't generally do the faces until after I've cut the boards into the sizes, because if there is a face of the board that's going to be concealed by the furniture, I don't bother planing it. I just plane the show faces. This is in keeping with tradition. Okay, so this bench doesn't have any kind of vices or holdfasts or anything, so we have to take a different approach to making it stand upright. Okay, in order to make this board stand upright, we're going to use two Dubuque hand screw clamps. These ones are made by Rock. I call them Dubuques because that's the first company I had them made by. They're hand screw clamps. Anyway, we're going to use these. We're going to slide this all the way down the board until this screw butts up against the end of the board. Then we're going to tighten it evenly, and we do that by turning both screws the same direction at the same time. That way, and I'm off a little. That way we can get our clamp faces fully engaged down both sides. Okay, give it a little snug up. There we go, that's snug. Now we're going to take another clamp and we're going to put it on the side and onto that clamp. And we're going to lock that down. Now that board is solid. If this is in the way, we can flip this around and move this further over. There we go. That way it will be out of the way of the plane. Okay, tighten down. Okay, now we're going to go do the other end. Okay, I've had to lower my frame a little bit, so excuse me if I cut off my head from time to time. Okay, so here's our plane. We put it on top. We want to be able to take a reasonable shaving, so we're just going to start by adjusting the depth. I'm doing that, I'm just moving it along. As you can see, it is now at the point where it's just taking shavings off of the edges of these sockers. So now we go all the way back to the beginning. Hopefully you can see this. I put the plane on top with the mouth off the board and the toe on the board. I'm going to put some weight on the board. I'm going to put my thumb around this and my forefinger and my other finger over the front tote like that. I'm going to take my other two fingers and I'm going to wrap them underneath like this. They're underneath so that they can act as a guide for squaring my face to the top. These fingers will help me guide that plane down the board. So now I'm going to walk down the board, taking shavings as I go. Let's see. So you can see we are just taking off the kerf of the saw. We're just removing that kerf. I don't know how thick that shaving is. Not very. We're taking off that kerf. So let's do it again. Again, we're just walking down the board. The plane is taking off the high spots, leaving the low spots. Okay, that's a pretty thick shaving, actually. We can take much thinner if we want to, but for now, that's a good bit because that'll get us down to a smooth surface reasonably quickly. Again, toe on, mouth off, walk forward, and I'm just walking. I am not using my arms to move the plane. I'm just walking down. Okay, so you can see that that's peeling off those shavings really nice. Let's see how thick those are. That is, I don't know if you can see that. Here, let's hold this up to the camera. I don't know if this camera can focus this close. There we go. Okay, so now that is in thousandths. That's 1/1000th thick. So that's not bad. Is that 1/1000th? No, sorry, that's 8/1000ths. That scale is the tens of, yeah, hundredths of an inch, not thousandths. Okay, anyway, that's 8/1000ths. Down we go again. Again, we're just walking. Just walking down. There's our shavings. Okay, now I'm going to show you another way of doing this. Veritas makes two fences. Fence number 1, been a while since I used it, there we go, is adjustable in angle. So you can set this at whatever angle you want. Fence number 2 is fixed. So we can put a fence on our plane. We can put it on either side, actually. So we just line it up. Helps if you line it up. There we go. Screw those down, just finger tight. Okay, now we have a fence. That fence is guaranteed 90 degrees. So, same deal, start at the end, mouth off the edge of the board. This time, we're going to be using our fingers again, same grip on the underside, and we're going to be pushing against the fence. This will help keep the fence square. So, as we go down, take shavings off the high spots. You can see that this is a full thickness shaving, so our hand-guided square is pretty darn square. So there we have that. Shavings all the way down. Again, that is 8 1/1000ths. Okay, now we can take a little bit less of a shaving if we want to. It will take a little bit longer to do the job, but we can do that. There we go. All right. How much less did we take? That's about 5 1/1000ths. Anyway, you get the point. That is the two primary ways in which I use this jointer plane. I don't always use the fence. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. But as you can see, I use it a lot, so I'm pretty experienced with getting it square. And we can check that square just to prove that it is square. So tighten it up. Okay. I'll grab the camera and show you how square that is. Just right. There you can see that that is square. Completely square. Okay, so now what I like about this plane for this particular job is, first off, I love the length of it, because when you're done, this entire thing is really flat. It's really good. You can do this. You can cut the board and flip the sides up and glue them together. No gaps. It's a beautiful thing. This plane does such a fantastic job on just such a simple job as flattening the edge of a board. It will also do the face equally well. Whoops, that's me. If I go slow, you can really see how well it's working. Beautiful, consistent, even ribbons along the whole thing. And when it's done, this is slick, smooth as butter. Not a mark on it. Of course, over here, it's not done yet. But here, right in this section, we are completely down. We're not down all the way here, and you can see that, and you can see that in the shaving. So when you get a consistent shaving off of there that's the same thickness and the same width all the way down in a single pass, you know you've arrived. If your board is shaped like a cup, this plane will still, it'll really work. You don't need to spend time planing down one end and then planing down the other and then plane the whole thing. You can if the board is really catawampus, but you don't need to because of the length of the body. It will smooth that out pretty well. By the time you get a smooth, even shaving across the whole thing, you're almost certainly going to be flat across the whole thing because that jointer is so long. The other thing I really like about the jointer is the heft. This is a fully cast ductile body, and you can see how thick the walls are and how thick the sole is. This thing is a good, solid plane. This plane, I will show you, okay, I am not pressing down on it. I am just moving the plane forward. And you can see that the weight of the plane alone is enough for it to cut perfectly. You don't need to spend a lot of effort, is the point of that. You don't need to spend a lot of effort pushing down the plane and trying to force it to cut, because you don't have to. As long as your blade is sharp, you're going to get a beautiful, perfect shaving all the way to town. From one end all the way to the other. So, overall overview, I really love this plane. I use this plane every single time I start a project. It's not a daily use plane, absolutely no. I don't start a new project every day. And once I get done jointing my boards in the way that I've just shown you, I don't use the plane again on that project normally until I start the next project. But for doing this beginning step of any project, I find this particular plane absolutely indispensable. And when I was first starting with this plane, I used this fence. I used this 90-degree fence all the time. I used it every single time I did it. I still use this fence when I want to put a 45-degree bevel on a long board. If I know that all of the boards are going to be jointed at 45 degrees, then I will use this plane with this fence set at 45 degrees to do all of the planing. And I have never gotten good at guesstimating 45 degrees, but if you set this to 45 degrees and lock it down, it's perfect. So if you're going to get yourself this jointer, I am going to recommend that you at least get the 90-degree fence, because you will use it. I guarantee it. There's just no question that you will use this plane or this fence even after you get used to it and are able to do a perfectly 90-degree without the fence, because it's nice to have that precision. Then you don't need to worry about it. Even today, I will go and I'll do most of my planing without the fence. But when I'm getting to the point where I want that edge to be finished and ready for working, I will put the fence on and just run it a time or two across to make sure everything is perfectly square. So I really hope that that helps you understand this plane better than the original review. This is much more of a how I use it than a review. So thanks for joining us. Subscribe, leave a comment if you have any. Even if you don't, just say hi. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.